Good morning. We are standing by to take you to a live news conference where AFL Chief Executive Gillon McLachlan is announcing he will step down. Chief Football reporter Tom Brown joins me while we wait for that to start. And Tom, is this a surprise?
Good morning, Mike. It's not necessarily a surprise. I asked Richard Goyder, the Commission Chairman, about this recently at a press conference. Also asked Gillon McLachlan one-on-one, and both couldn't commit to Gill being around beyond this year. So shortly, Gill will announce he's stepping down at the end of this year. The clubs were informed, the club presidents at 10:30 this morning, the AFL staff at 11 o'clock a short time ago. But the crux of the matter is that everyone knows that Gill's the best person for the job. He won't be easy to replace. He's got an incredible legacy, which we'll discuss shortly. But at the end of the day, Gill's been there for 8 years. And I'm sure at his age, which is close to 50, he might now want to look at other lucrative opportunities or challenges, having invested so much in keeping footy going, particularly during COVID.
Yeah, we've told he's less than a minute away, so I'll stick with you for a second, but bring that announcement as soon as it happens. We spoke about his legacy. Quickly, what will his legacy be in those 8 years?
Well, COVID, the AFL didn't have to rely on the $600 million facility. The AFLW, we pressed the accelerator on that quicker than they would have liked to go to get it up and running so successfully. He loves community footy and understands the balance and importance of community footy, and that's really important because he's balanced the traditions of the game in terms of the rules against the future, and he's got everyone's trust. It's very hard to replicate with the broadcasters, including Seven, obviously, the government, supporters, the players, the clubs, and he got everyone on board. The start of COVID said, let's all take a bit of a cut. We'll get through this. And he did it spectacularly, really saving footy as we know it.
Again, we just think it's a few seconds away, this announcement. But before we let you go, likely successor, there's a big list, isn't there?
Well, you've got to ask yourself, firstly, whether it should be internal or external. Internal, Travis Auld and Andrew Dillon will be discussed. There's mixed support for those guys in clubland. Outside, Brendan Gale would be the leading candidate. 244 games, a lawyer at Mallison's, a top law firm, ran the Players Association and won 3 flags against the odds and set his sights on that at Richmond. It's an incredible CV. There'll also be discussion about, for example, Jane Herdlicker, who is obviously very prominent at Tennis and Virgin, and also Christine Holgate. But I think Richard Goyder and the Commission will make the decision and they'll go for the best candidate. And
there's some challenges ahead. We mentioned COVID. We're still coming out of the COVID effect.
We're still being affected by COVID. There's obviously concussion challenges in terms of, for example, that story we had with John Platten last night. There's the Tasmanian decision this year. And there's also a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement to negotiate with the players that Gill, I imagine, will steer this year. And that will set up football for AFLW and AFL Men's for at least the next 3 to 5 years. So Gill's still got a number of challenges this year, and his successor no doubt will have challenges as well. But generally speaking, the game is in incredible shape, Mike, considering where we've been with COVID, courtesy of Gill's contribution.
We're going to show you inside AFL House now. You can see the media getting ready for Gillon McLachlan to make his announcement. We still haven't seen him yet, and we're keeping a close eye on that. We've got Tom Brown, Chief Football Reporter. Tom, there is a push for perhaps the first woman CEO as well?
Yeah, I've spoken to a prominent and influential club president. There's Laura McLachlan and the kids coming in as we speak.
Here we go. I'm going to interrupt you. We can see Gillon McLachlan walking in with his family, about to make the announcement that he's leaving as AFL CEO. Here he is now.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. Apologies for all the missed calls in the last couple of hours. Richard is going to open, followed by Gill, and then we're happy to take some questions. So, over to Richard.
Well, thanks, Jay, and welcome everyone. And can I particularly welcome our special guests, Laura and Edie and Cleo and Sydney and Luna McLachlan. Great to have you all here today. Obviously a big announcement for the AFL. Gill advised me on the weekend of his intention to step down as CEO of the AFL at the end of 2022. That'll be 9 men's seasons, probably 7 women's, hopefully, by then, and 22 years or so at the AFL. From my point of view and from the Commission's point of view, it'd be correct to say that, we're not happy with that decision, but completely supportive of it, if you get the sense. Gill's always said to me that he wanted to go at the top of his game at a time of his choosing and when the AFL was in as good a shape as it can be. And I think that's fair play, and the Commission thinks that's fair play. and certainly fair for he and his family. He's done an outstanding job, and I'll go to that in a minute. What Gill has done, and it's typical of Gill, is he's committed to a significant plan for 2022, and he's committed that he and his team will do a new broadcast deal. We'll do CBAs for men and women, club funding model. We'll put a position to the 18 clubs on Tasmania, and we'll get the men's and women's seasons away as best we can through 2022. So it's a big agenda that he will lead. I and the Commission will kick off a process in the next couple of days in terms of finding and appointing a successor to Gill. We've got a period of time in which we can do that. We'll appoint an external search firm in the next couple of days, and that process will get underway, and announcing today enables us to do that with some clear air. It's worth reflecting a bit on Gill's time to date at the AFL and looking at the scorecard, if you like, and I'm just going to take a little bit of time to do that, if that's okay. So there's record numbers, and that matters in participation, membership, attendance, revenue, the broadcast deals, viewership, the growth in New South Wales and Queensland. Girls and women in the game with, I think, 600,000 participants now. The investment in facilities, not just at the elite level, but throughout the community, which is a massive legacy. And of course, competitive balance has been a huge issue and continues to be something that we really aspire to in the AFL, any team on any day, and I think that's will be part of Gill's legacy. We've just completed season 6 of the AFL Women's, and it was the best season we've ever had, and it was a wonderful grand final in Adelaide on Saturday. But who will ever forget the first game and Gill having to go outside and tell people, sorry, the gates are closed because we can't let anyone else in, and the grand final in 2019 with 53,000 people at the Adelaide Oval was one of the best moments in AFL footy in my view. And of course we'll have 18 women's teams later this year, which is fantastic. And then he's always had this unrelenting focus on the fans and making sure that the game is accessible and affordable to our fans. And also that we never forget, in fact, we always build on community footy. And it's been so important, and it's been more important over the last few years than ever in this country, that we encourage participation, whether it's the volunteers, whether it's players, people in community footy, and Gill's been big on that. So we've always wanted to attract the best athletes to play at the elite level, but we also want the highest participation of any sport, and he's worked incredibly hard on that. Gill's leadership of the AFL through 2020 and 21, and Tony Shepherd just said this at a call we had with club presidents and CEOs, I think has been unbelievably good. Many of you will recall when we suspended the season, I think on the 22nd of March in 2020, and I know exactly where I was at the time when Gill rang me and said, I think we've got to suspend the season, and we had no idea what the future looked like. But we got through it. Footy actually, I think, kept most of us sane through 2020 and 21, particularly in Victoria. And we've come out of it in a really strong position with a strong balance sheet, generating cash, and with the game in as good a shape as it's ever been. Gill's also been a champion off-field in terms of improving the culture and inclusiveness of the AFL. He's built a great team, and a number of that team are with us today. His focus and the team's focus through 2022 and the things we want to get done, broadcast deal, as I said, women's, CBA, Tasmania, and club funding. On behalf of the Commission, Laura, I want to thank you, Edie, Cleo, Sydney and Luna for all the support you've given Gill and Dad over his time at the AFL. You've been immense You've been great people to be with. You've formed friendships with all of us. And so, again, on behalf of the whole AFL family, and particularly me and the Commission, thank you very, very much. Gil, I want to say on behalf of the Commission and the whole footy community, thank you. Thank you for your leadership, your personal strength in terms of values, integrity, openness, your drive, your passion, your empathy, your decision making and your intuition has been fantastic. You're one of the best people I've ever worked with, and you'll leave the game in much better shape on and off the field. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Over to you.
Thanks, Richard, for those very generous words. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I only want to make a few comments. Firstly, I want to say that, as Richard discussed, you're all going to have to put up with me for the balance of the year. I'm not leaving today, and I think Richard's been really clear about the agenda that's in front of the team this year. But I think this timeline gives Richard and the Commission the right runway to work through the succession process, and allows us, me and the team, to work to the time to close out what we need to do to bring this thing to the sort of landing I'm planning on. Because the reality is there's the 4 or 5 huge things to get done still this year. I'd like to reiterate what I said when I accepted this role, that it's an honour and a privilege to serve this game. Best game in the world. That's why everyone loves it so much. The responsibility's never been lost on me, and I feel good that the game's in better shape now than when I took over, but the scoreboard for the others will be for others to judge. I'm leaving now because it feels right, right for the AFL, right for me, right for my family. It's clearly more complicated than that, but actually, in simple terms, it's not. It's the AFL's in incredible shape, and I say this, I hope you take it the right way. It's in incredible shape on whatever metric you assess it. It's footy's back pumping with a clear plan for continued growth, and I feel good about that. I feel it's the right time if we close out the stuff we need to do this year. I want to thank my 2 chairmen, Richard and Mike Fitzpatrick, and all the commissions I've worked for. I couldn't have hoped for 2 better people to work for and to learn from, and that they're both tremendous people. Have always had my back, and applies to their wives as well, Helen and Janine. And I'm pleased that they're both all close personal friends, and it applies to so many of the commissioners and their partners, and I think Paul Bassett is actually here today as well, and their partners. I've been very lucky. Clearly, it also applies to my colleagues and teammates over so many years. So many people I've worked with over such a long period are so talented, dedicated, and I have so many close friends. And the reality is the AFL's been a huge part of my life, and it's all about the people, and I'm not going to individualise. Other than to say I could never have imagined when I started that the friendships I would take from the AFL would be by far the most significant thing I'll take from my time here. And it's not just to the AFL, it's across the clubs and our commercial and broadcast partners. Greatest game in the world is so because there's a bloody lot of passionate and mercurial people in and around it. And I think footy brings out the best in them. And this includes all of you, mostly. You know there's exceptions. I finally want to thank my broader family and friends for their support and counsel, but specifically my wife Laura and our 4 incredible kids, Edie, Cleo, sometimes Sydney, and Luna. Laura is a peerless mother and partner, and my last call for review on almost every issue. She's ridden every bump, been in every melee, and been part of every possession, both those on the outside, but certainly those in the inside. And after such a long time, I want to thank her and the kids for being so much a part of every bit of it. and for making my life and my time here so much richer. So thank you all. Happy to take questions.
When you've got your family in the front row, is that the sense of relief almost being here now, given what you've been through, particularly in the last 18 months?
Yeah, there's relief, there's regret, there's everything. It's clearly an emotional day because I've spent 20 years of my life here. But, I feel very good about where the league is, and I feel good about the fact that, that's the right time. And I've got a plan with Richard and the Commission for this year. They can get done what they need to do. And my team will do what we need to do, and clearly then I feel good that, my family are looking forward to a bit of a different world going forward as well, and that's clearly been part of the decision.
Gillon, you said it feels right. What happened prior to the weekend? What triggered it to it be now?
Richard and I are in constant contact. I think if you've got a relationship like I do with Richard, you're talking about the future all of the time. And coming out of COVID, as we had a line of sight, we're talking about, I think Richard said he was looking at a more longer term view, and I just felt that as people came back to the football, as we closed out the grand final of AFLW, Richard and I flew to Adelaide together and we had a chat, and I just said, I think this feels right, and we come out now. Hopefully it's not a distraction to the women's grand final or to the men's season. It just felt the right time then that they could get done what they need to do this year, because it might take 6 or 7 months or whatever it's going to take to find the right replacement, and I can get that stuff done, and also I can have conversations with others and look ahead a bit with my family and with others. So I said genuinely a month ago, Sam, one day, and it just felt right on the weekend. We had that conversation. We sat in the front of a plane and nutted it out, and that was about it.
So, Richard, it wasn't a phone call, it was seat 1A and 1B?
It actually was. It was 1A and 1B. Cause
1C, actually.
Did you expect this conversation to be coming for a while?
Yeah, as Gil said, Sam, you need an open and trusting relationship, particularly Chair CEO. It wasn't a surprise. As you'd expect, I've looked to try and push it back a bit, but as I said, I said earlier, I think it's fair play. I think I totally get it from Gil and the family's point of view, and I'll do everything I can to work with Gil to make sure this is a really successful year for the AFL. But I'll also help Gil in terms of any counsel I can be in the next phase of his life as well.
Gil, did COVID keep you in the position for a bit more longer than you may have anticipated?
I don't know about the role, because I think you sort of, there's swings and roundabouts and highs and lows of this. What was clear that once that started, that I would never have felt comfortable leaving until everything I thought was in order. And, it was a tough couple of years. There was moments there that I probably could have, if it was an option, you would have. But it's a hypothetical I'm not avoiding. I just don't know. Everyone will have their own views. I just feel good that if we're leaving this year, we do what we're going to do, and where the game is, that it's the right time for the game and for me, and I'll feel good about where the game is, and that's been my primary. It's been my job, and I've taken it very seriously. As I said, it's been a real privilege and honour, and I'm aware of it every day. And then for me, family and other things, it'll be time to look. It feels like it's time to look forward.
You're a planner, that's why you're in the role. Without COVID, do you think you would have been 10 plus years as chief executive? Would that have been, before the 2020 hit? Would you have been thinking that?
I just never thought like that, Roger. I just don't. I feel like I've had an open conversation all the time with Richard, and I've never had plans like that. You come if you've got an agenda. You come and do it to the best of your abilities. I love working with the team I've had. I've loved our industry. I've loved every part of it. So I've never planned to be 10 or 6. As long as I've come in engaged, responding to the day-to-day, and also hopefully, as I said, as you said, planning and looking forward. And then there's obviously just a time. And I really not, as I said, there's obviously lots of little pieces, but it just feels the right time, and I can't be clearer than that. And primary is the right time for the AFL. I feel Richard has a slightly different view, but and obviously for me and my family, and I feel very good that it'll be handed over in good shape, and whoever takes it forward's got a good platform to
We've never
run with.
seen you this emotional. Your family look absolutely wrapped.
Yeah.
How hard a call has it been to you, and sort of how much has family influenced that?
My wife would support me whatever I did every day of the week. So she clearly has views, but there's just no greater ally in the world than Laura, and so they are part of the decision making. There's no doubt about that. But this is my call, and it's clearly emotional because I'm leaving a big part of my life. But it's the right one. That when I stop reflecting on what I'm missing, I'll look forward, and I know it'll be another journey for us, which will be amazing.
You're still young, Gil. Do you know what it is you want to go down the path of now?
No, and that's fun. Well, I hope one day it'll be fun when I can actually... I mean, you can't talk to anyone about anything, so I have no idea what I'm going to do, Damo. Someone said to me, you can't sell a secret, and so... I have not really... I've had obviously some thoughts, but I haven't had a conversation of substance with anyone, really. I mean, I had a couple of conversations, but it's a bit of a blank canvas, and that's terrifying but exhilarating. And we're not there yet. I think everyone hopefully knows that what I've said to Richard, we will do, and I don't feel that, as I said to the club presidents, with the club funding model, will be the last thing I do, so they can't, give me too hard a time because they need the money. But obviously I'll then hopefully have some conversations along the way and shape what that looks like. But I don't know.
Richard, you're invested in the organisation you're leading. What kind of CEO needs to replace you now? Internally, externally?
Sorry, was that me?
What kind of person does the AFL need now to replace you?
That is not, Michael, a decision for me, and I'm not trying to be churlish about it. Richard and the commission, it's their decision to make. What I do feel absolutely certain about, that whoever replaces me will be completely different, and they'll have to bring their own style and be their own person, man or woman. And that was the only bit of advice that whoever gets the role, just be your own self and be your own person, and you'll go okay. And that was advice given to me by Andrew Demetrio, and I've hopefully brought that to bear every day I've been here.
When you reflect back on your time here, what's your proudest moment?
I reckon that's for other people to talk to about what we've done. The pride for me, more broadly, is just I love this game. I love its impact. So,
when emotion talking about how much you love the game, how has it felt for you to have your hands on the wheel of the game so much?
Well, you're aware of the responsibility because it means a lot to so many people. You're reminded of it every day. You can't walk down a street or into a shop, or you can't cross the road. You can't, So that it's. I've certainly been aware of the weight of the responsibility, but also that's a privilege and a response that I've felt that, and so it's not been a burden in the way that maybe it's asking. It's just been a special thing to have had, and I'm eternally grateful for Mike and the commission that made the decision at the time, and Richard, the support, and obviously all those have supported me to do it, and I've done the job I've done, and others will judge what they think of it. But I feel we're in good shape, and I'm leaving hopefully with a thing better than when I started, and that was the job.
Richard, given what's happened in the last couple of years with COVID and the changing nature of the footy landscape, does that make it harder for you to get someone in externally? And I guess the other way of asking it would be easier to bring someone up who's been already building relationships underneath Gil to transition more smoothly?
Yeah, so I don't think it's the right time to speculate on. All I'd say is, having made the comments I made at the opening about Gil and his timing, I feel really good about the quality of people we've got within the AFL system right now, in terms of AFL House and in the clubs. So, you know, I feel we've got in that group people who are more than capable of taking over from Gill, and then we'll go through a process, and there may well be others that, you know, come to hand and we'll have a look at. So I feel very confident that in due course we'll be able to make an appointment, which will be a really strong appointment to take the AFL forward.
So what have you seen as Gillon's biggest strength, particularly in the last couple of years, that would make him hard to replace?
Gill's, I said earlier, his personal values, so that integrity, openness, you know, there's not one significant thing in the AFL that he and I, when I've been in this role, haven't spoken about and discussed. But he's also his intuition. So Sam, I'd say the last couple of years, the ability to see around corners, and that's a great thing for a CEO to have, to sort of see what might be coming when it's not clear, and be prepared to make hard decisions when others are throwing their hands in the air and saying, gee, this is hard. And he did that with great aplomb. And I think, you know, I think we all owe him a debt of gratitude for that.
You touched on some of the challenges there. I mean, the pandemic being one. I mean, Essendon was obviously a big one early in your tenure as well. Would there be anything you do differently along the way when you reflect on it, or do you have those challenges every day in the job?
I think I make tens of thousands of decisions. They're not all right, and there's always things you do differently. But substantively, you know, I feel okay where we're at. That doesn't mean you don't. Yeah, as I said, you make a number of different decisions, but the big ones, I feel good. I mean, that was a tough period this last couple of years, and you know, there's some big moments and some big calls we had to make, and we've come through that pretty well, and that's where we are today.
You mentioned the word regret, like the first response you gave to us. What is your biggest regret in the role?
No, I didn't say regret. There was remorse, or I meant to say remorse. There's an emotional day. I think it was asked about how I'm feeling today. There's a bit all range of emotions. I don't have any regrets, so let's just be clear about it. There's no regrets about any part of the role. What I was maybe, you know, in an emotional saying was that there's a range of emotions today, and sort of some regret about what I meant to say was that, you know, that someone at some point you look back and go, well, that was an amazing journey, it's all done. That's what I was talking about, not any aspect of the decision making. As I said, I'm sure everyone would have things they do differently, but I don't have any part of this role I look back on with any regret.
You mentioned a few big ticket items on the agenda for this year. Can you elaborate on those, particularly the women's CBA and also the licence with Tassie?
Yeah. So it's just easier to be clearer. So quietly, we've been having discussions with broadcasters and others. We'll do a new broadcast deal this year. That's obviously huge. We'll have arrangements with our men and women players. We'll do new CBAs that will flow from that, and we'll contemplate that. And those discussions will be picked up in the coming days. There'll be a club funding model that it will actually then contemplate.
And that's where we'll leave the news conference there. Gillon McLachlan standing down after 8 years. Stay on 7. We'll have updates throughout the afternoon and special coverage in our bulletins at 4 and 6.